Well, that did not last very long. We're going to get into the CADF statement. We're going to discuss what this means for Jakob Fuglsang. We're going to talk about the state of anti-doping in cycling. I'm going to clarify some of my comments in the previous video. It's very disappointing, but if you haven't seen what's happened yet, I mean, we only got 160 in the stream yet. I'm not getting to the statement until we got 200 in the stream. That's just not how it's going to be. Go crazy in the live chat. Super chat if you want to. If you want your comments read quicker. Or consider joining channel membership. But if you haven't seen it, it's been on Reddit. Reddit is where I basically get all my news. I don't have a TV. I don't have a radio. But on Reddit, I saw that CADF had released a statement. I'm not reading the statement till we got 200 in the stream. It's just not going to go through it twice. So we're going to wait. Thanks for joining the Lanterne Rouge emergency live stream. I was actually doing a video on Michele Ferrari's website, but that can wait. That can wait for this. All right, we got 200 in the stream. Enough messing around. Let's have a look at this statement, baby. Okay, CADF just released a statement on allegations against Jakob Fuglsang. I'll see if I can zoom in for you, because I know a lot of you. That's zooming out. I know a lot of you watch on mobile. Try and make this even bigger for you. That's not helped. So this is the statement. I'll read it out if it's too small font for you. In response to growing media interest surrounding rider Jakob Fuglsang, Alexei Lutsenko, it's not just Fuglsang, but because he's a bigger rider than Lutsenko, it's been about Fuglsang. And Dr. Michele Ferrari, the Cycling Anti-Doping Foundation, the independent body mandated by the Union Cycliste Internationale to define and carry out anti-doping in the sport of cycling, would like to clarify a number of points. In response to growing media interest. Was it my email? No, it wasn't my email. It wasn't my email. I had to release this statement. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised this statement took this long to come out. I'm really surprised. Like, they really gonna let him hang like that for 3 days? Are you kidding? Anyway, in accordance with World Anti-Doping Code and the WADA International Standard for testing and investigations, the CADF investigates. Yeah, you do your job. We get it. In view of the public disclosure of certain documents, the CADF can confirm the following. CADF received information in relation to alleged potential anti-doping rule violations and requested intelligence service provider Sport Radar to conduct additional research on the allegations to complete CADF files. So, an anti-doping rule violation, I'm pretty sure, is just meeting Dr. Michele Ferrari is a rule violation. Just meeting him, or maybe not just meeting him, but like employing him as a consultant for 30 minutes to have a chat about your upcoming season. That's a rule violation. You get a 2-year ban for that. So that would be a rule violation, and that's relevant. You know, that low threshold when we get to it later. Second bullet point: international. This is where they throw the other place on under the bus. Sorry. International cooperation being key to effective anti-doping investigations, Sport Radar's subsequent report was shared in strict confidentiality and in a secured manner with selection of relevant anti-doping bodies and law enforcement agencies. So, man, we've got a lot of people in the live chat right now. So the CADF commissioned a report. They got a third party, Sport Radar. We'll get to them in a second. They got them to do the actual investigation or to prepare a report for the CADF. CADF just seemed to be a bit of a post box. And then Sport Radar took the report, gave it back to the CADF. CADF then gave that report to anti-doping bodies and law enforcement agencies. Vetoland 92. Well, again, this is the key point. We'll get to that in a second. Vetoland 92, what your comment is. I mean, it should be an exoneration, shouldn't it? The CADF treated the information contained in the report with extreme care At no point did it share the findings with any other third party, including media representations. So basically they're saying that it's the Sport Radar or someone else, not CADF, that CADF saying it's not them that leaked this report. Because I made a mistake. I'll admit it, I made a mistake in the previous video. I assumed because it had been like 3 days since the leak and they didn't respond to my email, I assumed the CADF were okay with the leak because they just hadn't commented on it. They didn't even say it was a leak and they were looking into it. They waited 3 days for the shitstorm to ensue. Felix Newstead, thanks for the $2 donation. Thoughts on Fuglsang's 2020 season? I think it'll be unaffected, to be honest. I think he'll go well in the Ardennes again. I think he'll go well similar to 2019 rather than the years before. I think he'll go pretty well in the Ardennes again. This is the big one. And this is why I think the narrative should be exonerated, right? Finally, the CADF confirms that after careful review of the elements available, it has not submitted the report to the UCI for the initiation of disciplinary proceedings against the individuals or teams in question. So, people are saying, oh, well, that's not an exoneration. They didn't go so far as to say, CADF didn't go so far as to say, we did our own investigation and received conclusive 100% proof that Jakob Fuglsang was not doping, squeaky clean. But the thing is, in cycling, you're never going to get to 100%. Unless you literally sit next to a person and stare at them for 365 days a year, even when they're sleeping, which I don't think is legal or possible, you're never going to actually 100% know whether someone's squeaky clean or not. So, if the report hadn't been leaked, which it shouldn't have been leaked, then we would be none the wiser Jakob Fuglsang. So really, and a lot of people I know a lot of you guys disagree with me in the chat. A lot of you saying it's not an exoneration because, well, all the CADF are really saying in this last paragraph here, all they're really saying is that there wasn't sufficient evidence for them to actually initiate disciplinary proceedings, which again doesn't make sense to me because shouldn't they take their report, right? Like, their job's not to do commence disciplinary action. Shouldn't the CDAF receive the information, compile it, decide whether the information is valid or not, and then give that report to the UCI for the UCI to determine whether it's sufficient for the commencement of disciplinary proceedings? I don't know why. So that doesn't really make sense to me. I think what they're saying and how I read it is that report didn't mean shit. Like, the report was of hearsay of someone that wouldn't come forward, wouldn't say anything on the record. And yeah, if they had 12 people and so none of those 12 people wanted to go on the record, they couldn't connect Fuglsang to Ferrari in any physical sense or on social media or any other way. So unless you view cycling through the lens of there's actually no burden of proof and the presumption is that everyone's guilty, if you just presume everyone's guilty, then I guess he's not exonerated, but he's exonerated in my view to the same level of any other rider who may have had an improvement in their career or whatever. He's exonerated in that there's no evidence that Jakob Fuglsang is doping. If you want to read into his performance and say he's doping, that's up to you. I don't really agree with that. If you do think that way, geez, must be tough to watch cycling. So they've thrown Jakob Fuglsang under the bus. But getting back to Felix Newstead's super chat, remember that Fuglsang came last year. Pro cycling stats. He came. Fuglsang. Felix and Newstead asked, will we see a replication of his 2019 season, which was winning Vuelta a Andalucia, third in Tirreno, third in Amstel Gold, second in Fletcher, first in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, first in Dauphiné, and a stage of La Vuelta, plus pretty well in the autumn Italian classics. I mean, that's such a good season, and maybe, you know, he probably won't replicate that just because of the way it works, but, you know, the way people's performance goes up and down. I mean, how old was he last year? Okay, so he's 34 when he had a good season last year. I don't know. It's up to you, but when we go back to the secret report connects Fuglsang with infamous banned doping doctor in the original Politiken article. And this is what's crazy, right? Surely the CADF will be pretty annoyed with Politiken if they're publishing things that say CADF intelligence when it was a sports radar report, according to the CADF, indicates that Jakob Fuglsang's under Michele Ferrari's doping program and that Alexei Lutsenko was present. Like, this is the paragraph that's the money one. Benny B says, did I see the article by the Secret Pro? Yeah, it sucked, man. That was the worst article ever. The guy's like looking down his nose, not really saying anything interesting or insightful, basically saying, the Secret Pro said on Cycling Tips, he said, yeah, I knew about this last year in March. And then later goes on to say, yeah, well, I just wish everyone else in the peloton would speak out. It's like, well, you didn't say anything, did you? If you knew something, did you go on the record for the report? Maybe you did. I don't know, but it's kind of hypocritical from my perspective. Plus, then he just implies Fuglsang's doping. Plus, I don't know. Didn't really like that article. Wasn't particularly well written either. Do you think Astana will sue the CADF? What would you do if you were them? I probably would sue them. Well, no, Rick Studio just says, Astana may have threatened with legal action unless legit evidence is presented. Well, no, like, the CADF are washing their hands of this. The CADF are saying, Jakob Fuglsang, that this was not their doing. They didn't deliberately leak this. It had nothing to do with them. And it was someone else that they gave the report to, leaked this report to the Danish media. So they've washed their hands of it. And the entity that they got to do this report is called Sport Radar. In 2019, they launched anti-doping services. I don't know what they do. They do social media monitoring, social network analysis, dark web research, human intelligence, due diligence, risk and compliance. So apparently the CADF partnered with them in the end of 20th November 2018. So they've not been a relationship between them for too long. And the CADF have pretty much thrown them on the bus and said, don't look at us. It's them. What do you think? Do you view this as an exoneration? Let me just check the Instagram. Do you think this is an exoneration? Do you really care? I don't. Does it change your view of Jakob Fuglsang? Eduardo B. Talk in layman's terms, like Jens Lehmann. My internet's dying. I mean, the hypocrisy in cycling right now, I'm just seeing a tweet from Johan Brunel, right? So it's a tweet. I'm trying to show you on the camera. You probably can't see it. So Cycling News has just put an article out saying, Tour de France director Christian Prudhomme welcomes apology from Bjarne Riis. I welcome it, and it is a step forward. Meanwhile, you've got CADF, their reports being given to them, leaking to about Jakob Fuglsang, leaking to the Danish media. You've got Johan Brunel, Lance, Michael Rasmussen, Jan Ulrich, they're banned from sort of any Tour de France events. It's a fucking circus, man. Like, what is reality? What is fake news? Where are the lines between, where are the, what's okay, what's not okay? Are you allowed to dope, then come back and be, once you've been rehabilitated, like apparently Bjarne Riis is? I'm very confused. If you're just joining the stream, the CADF have released a report basically saying that they didn't mean to leak it. They really regret leaking it. they weren't going to submit the report to the UCI after they carefully reviewed the report because they didn't think there was sufficient evidence to initiate any disciplinary proceedings. They're not going to be making any further comment, and they're really sorry about it. No, they didn't really say that they're really... Oh, they just said they're really sorry about it. They deeply regret that the report was leaked. But I think the reality is, when you look at... Go back to Jakob Fuglsang, the reality is his reputation is fucked forever, right? Like, whatever apology sues them or doesn't sue them, Astana sue them, whether they do or not, whether we find out who actually leaked the report, it's just that his reputation's cooked forever. Like, you see people in the live chat saying he's not exonerated of anything. And I guess, yeah, that's the result of doping reports being leaked. I know that anti-doping got to do their job. I don't know why. I don't know why they had to be casting the net so wide and they're sending this report to so many people. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know why the Anti-Doping Foundation or body... Like, I get that they have to subcontract and get Sport Radar to do the report, but once they've got the report, shouldn't they just keep the lines of communication between them and Sport Radar? I don't know why it's going to it's saying here, they shared it with anti-doping bodies and law enforcement agencies throughout Europe, so wherever. So I don't know why they needed to do that. Maybe that's how you actually get doping, like, convictions, is through the police usually, like the Operation Adalas. Nico Brotspiel says the reputation of the journalist is cooked. So what was it? Jeppe Larsen Brock and Christian Heide Jorgensen. Probably not going to be too popular in Denmark. I mean, they got a lot of clicks for Politiken on that article, and it created a lot of buzz. But, and like, I guess if I'm trying to think of a team that comes across as clean. If Jakob Fuglsang was on FDJ, if he was on FDJ, would everyone just jump to the conclusion that he's doping? Probably not as much. Everyone's like, oh, you're on a Astana, you must be dirty. You must be dirty. But hit me up with your live chat comments. Consider joining channel membership. Would you like to see Dr. Michele Ferrari's top 5 training tips from his website? I got that video ready to be edited. Probably won't be coming up tonight. I think Fuglsang is bearing the brunt of being on a very, very unpopular team with a very, very unpopular DS. As I said at the start of this stream, it's impossible to know unless you watch someone 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, maybe do night shifts. I don't know whether you do that and stare at them and watch everything they eat and do. It is impossible to know for sure, for 100% sure, whether someone is clean or not. Like, fully. You can't be sure. That being said, we can't assume if people haven't had disciplinary proceedings commenced against them, if they haven't tested positive, if there's no photograph of them in a room or a cafe meeting someone, that, like, if there's at least a photograph or something in the report, like something tangible, I wouldn't be saying all this. I wouldn't be so defensive of it. But the fact that it's just like third-hand hearsay through like chains of reports, that's why the CADF couldn't give it to the UCI, because the UCI would have said, are you kidding me? What can we do with this? I've got to prosecute him based on hearsay from like 10 people that aren't going to even put their name on the record. Of course, they couldn't really do anything about it. So does that mean, oh, well, a few people who we don't know who they are, right? Like, what if it was one team that hate Vinokurov and we're like, you know what, we're just going to throw mud at Fuglsang? That seems pretty unrealistic. But we don't know the agenda of the people that said certain things to Sport Radar or CADF. Like, we don't know their agenda. So without photos or any really physical evidence, it's kind of BS that this report got leaked, and particularly that the article used such strong language, right? That if it was just hearsay from a few people who wouldn't go on the record, to use such strong language like CADF intelligence, which the CADF had already decided, it seems, that it didn't really merit giving to the UCI because it wasn't enough to do anything with. That it indicates that he's under Ferrari's doping program. To use that language when, yeah, urine bronze, it looks very bad. But what looks very bad? That's what I don't get, man. If there was a photo with him with Ferrari, what looks bad? Okay, so he went better in 2019. There are so many riders who had big transformations in their late 20s, early 30s. It's happened a lot in the last decade. So many riders. What do you want to do? Just ban them? That's what the Secret Pro did on Cycling Tips. Secret Pro guy, he got the, and I did it as a joke. I just looked at it for interest. Oh, did he do pretty good in 2019? But he got the 2019 Pro Cycling Stats bar up of the ranking, and he's like, oh, look at this. Look at Fuglsang's 2019 season. It's pretty good. It's like, well, what about people that have been dominant for the entire decade? Does that mean they're not doping if you've been crushing it the whole decade? What about that then? Nico Brotspiel says, we already have proof that you use salbutamol. We've seen the inside of your fridge. Why should we believe anything you say on doping? Fair point. I get it. Rick Studio says, who benefits the most from this leak? It doesn't stack up. Well, anyone that doesn't like Fuglsang or Astana, I guess, benefits from this leak. I guess. So is Astana's changing their name. Alright, thanks for supporting the channel, everybody. Consider joining the channel membership, like the video. This was just a quick breaking news about Jakob Fuglsang, I think, being exonerated, because we're now back to the default of what should have been the case, which is no report leak, and you can make up your own conclusions about his 2019 season or whatever. But I think we all knew, right? We all knew when it was like the big thing. They said, yeah. They saw him on the scooter with a stopwatch in Monaco and Nice, like pacing Jakob Fuglsang. Like everyone was like, that's just so unbelievable. And someone else used an analogy. They were like, yeah, that was basically like, they may as well said, yeah, Fuglsang went into a cafe in Girona, got an EPO, got a blood bag out, and just they had the blood bag in the cafe, in the machine, in the fridge, ready to go in the cafe in Girona in front of half the pros in the world tour. Like, it's basically like saying that about Ferrari on the scooter. It's so unrealistic and ridiculous that would have happened, and that sort of undermined the credibility of the report. Alex Bardin. Yeah, nobody ever saw Fuglsang demolishing fields. What about people beating Jakob Fuglsang? What about people beating him then? What about that? Timmy Ricks, where's the Subaru hat? It's here. Thanks for watching the live stream. Lutsenko is exonerated too, I guess. Anti-doping still doesn't work in any sense. Remember that. And I got to go to sleep because I got to ride in the morning.